Champon. The truth is an irony, just like animal farm. Justice mean inequity. So who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Christian can say silence. Islamic leaders silence. Kings and queens silence. Traditional leaders silence. So who go say the truth? We are the workers of confuse the call. Now by area, why no better? We are the workers of confuse the call. One guy's area, why no better? Who go say the truth? Who go say the truth? Oh, he need it now, see what's I see so. Now your friend on a nine come at them. Only papi obeka nice and beer. So I want one over you at two. Everybody was afraid. And until I learned to my quantity again nine. Once my boy dumping one and I cheat. But who go tell the truth? Nanai or say me. Nanso bien person beka wasam because everybody is afraid. Anya safwe muayini. Akuku drofo nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Obiaja konson so to grow your mansa to me be a cacobrafo. Efo anyina ye. Efo when you know yet. Na so kutrata down so be dia back or why no keke. I fene for be man mo pia for efo no cross on my mo. Hanya safwe mo ayini. Akuku trofo nyina dalima. And who go say the truth? Abaya di bote chino. Yedi bi bebo nyande bi. Tachi sa udi oma upipi numa. Would your mind never shine my preference? But who go tell the truth? TUC silence. Even journalists silence. So then who go say the truth? Right is right. Wrong is wrong, no matter how you justify. You say you wanna get rid of corruption. Someone want to help you, now the person become your target. Jobless, no they mean senseless. Poverty, no they mean useless. One day, then go resist.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to yet another exciting edition of your Monday evening favorite socio-political talk show live on Today Ghana News TV. It is MyView Show, where every Monday evening we do well to bring you the most topical and the most essential social political discussion that is relevant to Ghana and to Africa and the rest of the world at large. And this evening, it's not going to be any different. Well, where to begin? This year, in keeping pace with the events that have been happening in Ghana, which are purely and mainly political, we have tried to skew our presentations to that direction to try as much as possible to give you an understanding of what is happening in the political landscape and to try as much as possible to give you as much information as possible so that come few weeks from now, when you vote, you can do so from informed positions. But every now and again, things come up. Just like a few weeks ago, We got veered off a little from the political discussions and in the media space in general, not necessarily here, but in the media space, we got settled with the topic, the ever-recurring topic of the Galamsey issue, which plagued Ghana and which still continues to plague Ghana. Thereof, as a spin-off from there, we also got settled with the issue of the arrest and detention of the Galamsey protesters, which yet again led us into another line of thought or another line of discussion. But, well, this week, Ghana, our beloved country, as they say, the gift that keeps on giving, has yet again brought us back to politics. And, well, not necessarily, it's not always necessarily in a good way all the time. Last week, in eager anticipation for the recall of Parliament, not recall, but for Parliament to come back for its last session for this particular, the 7th Parliament of the Fourth Republic, on Tuesday, certain events started unraveling themselves. And this built up to a crescendo on Thursday, which led to other events on Friday. And we are settled with what some people are describing as a constitutional crisis. Well, what led to this? Should we have gotten here? What are the remedies to the current issues that we have? Are we overreacting? Are we panicking in vain? Are these light issues that shall pass like all others? As we always see on this show, we necessarily do not have the answers to these questions. But what we can do is to bring you people who have the answers and who are best suited to respond to these questions, to answer them, and to bring peace to all of us. And so this evening, we are privileged and fortunate to be joined by Mr. Eric Delano Alifo. Mr. Alifo is a lawyer by practice, and he is also the president of Lawyers in Search of Democracy. Linsort, I think that's right. Okay, Linsort, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much, Lawyer Alifo, for joining us. But before we continue, let's pay homage and say a very warm welcome to our viewers and our listeners who are joining us online. So we say a very warm welcome to our listeners on Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. We also say a very warm welcome to our listeners on High FM 3.7 in Achuhima in the Eastern region. And we say a very warm welcome to our listeners on the King's Radio in Accra, and also to all our viewers and listeners on all our social media platforms and handles, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and many other platforms that you may be joining us from. So wherever you are joining us from, you are welcome to today's show. And today, just before we start, we are looking at this impasse that is taking on between that is going on between the legislature in Ghana and the judiciary, which has possible consequences to spin off to other arms of government as well, and not only other arms of government, but governors in Ghana in general. And so, let's welcome back our guest, Lawyer Alifo, who is joining us for today's discussion. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a while, a very long while.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. We are hanging in there. It's not easy for anybody in Ghana right now under Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia, who is trying very hard to succeed his boss and to just go to do exactly what his boss has done to us for the past 8 years. In fact, together they have ruined this nation, and so it's not easy at all. And we are doing everything seriously to make sure that Bawumia doesn't come to continue Nana Akufo-Addo's 8 years. So we are trying our very best.
Well, like they say, continue to hang in there, and we wish you all the best. But just before we go into the discussions for this evening, Your organization, Linsot, you said
Yes,
the first the full meaning is Lawyers in Search of Democracy.
that's correct.
Ah,
Yes.
lawyer, we already have democracy. We've been having democracy in the Fourth Republic for over 30 years. Why are you still in search of democracy?
Well, ours is a struggling democracy. You know, even when you go to the developed democracies, they still have civil society organizations that have been watching governance, institutions that have been watching them and advising. Ours, and especially under Nana Akufo-Addo, it's a complete mess. In fact, Rawlings did far better. Rawlings just coming out of a military dictatorship, and everybody doubted if he would be able to administer a proper democracy. Did far better. Nana Akufo-Addo, in fact, it's a disaster. Demonstrators could be arrested, prison custody. In fact, only demonstrators, people who are fighting for a just cause, were just called by and then sent to remand them to in 2 weeks, and then they return in 2 weeks, and then they remand, you know. So everybody is so scared in this country. So we have to watch it. We have to speak constantly and put people on the alert, and then also educate the citizens the rights that they have, and that way, then we shall. When we hope that the cost, in fact, the cost that should be we are, well, you know. So most of the time, the cost will side with government. That is keep speaking. We have to keep putting the institutions that are supposed to make sure that them on the spot. We have to continue to keep them on the alert. You have to continue to speak, complain whenever there's a need to complain, so that they'll be on their toes. So it's a struggling democracy. So we need to have lawyers, such as in my group. Although this is a group that was formed by lawyers that were originally affiliated to NDC, actually. But you know, if, as the name depicts, these are people who are fighting for democracy, ensuring that whenever things are not going right, we point them out. And so it's open for any lawyer from anywhere, anybody who wants to join us. And we've been issuing, in fact, in the last year, we issued about more than 17 statements on many of the things that have been going on in the country. You would recall that our Attorney General even tried to tamper with a witness, even a party in a case, a party he is prosecuting, and trying to get the party to testify in a manner to implicate the former minority leader, who is now the majority leader of parliament. You know, so a lot of things are going on that we have to watch carefully, and we have to make sure that we speak about. That is my group, Lawyers in Search of Democracy. We are on the alert, and we are watching carefully and speaking whenever we need to speak.
Yeah. So this group, how long has it been in existence?
This group has been in existence for about 20 years or so. You know, except that it was a low-profile group for some time. But in the last year or so, we decided that we have to come up fully and operate like any other civil society organization, and we are doing that in the legal sector, especially also when the Ghana Bar Association has disappointed us, and the things that we expect the Ghana Bar Association to speak about. The association is not bothered at all, as long as it is MPP that is in power and is doing whatever. They don't care. So that is when we have found a space to complain about some of these things that they should be complaining about and they are not doing.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Well, hearing what you are saying, that's not surprising, because most of the things you are talking about are legal issues, and coming from your training as a lawyer, these are not surprising. One would expect that you come from that angle. However, what is surprising is that the picture you are painting are things that are happening under the leadership of somebody who is touted as a human rights activist and who has been engaged in that over for decades, for close to half a century. So, I mean, does that surprise you in any way, that under the work of a human rights lawyer, this is where we are right now?
Yes, it surprises me. In fact, that title, that accolade that Nana Akufo-Addo was a human rights lawyer, it's a complete farce, you know. And it's not only me that is disappointed. A lot of people in Ghana, including some of his own party members, are disappointed, seriously disappointed about. And you know, people knew him long ago, and so some people even they told us, they kind of let us know long ago that look, this man is a tyrant, you know. In fact, in the first term, in the first 4 years of his administration, he wouldn't be able to even demonstrate at all. People were not able to demonstrate, you know. As soon as you want to demonstrate, the police will run to court with ex parte motion and go and get orders from the court. And the court were also so happy. They were always granting it. So, you know, so that is how come this democracy helped people. Oliver, because they were strong enough and they said, well, whether you give us a chance or not, we are going to demonstrate. And, you know, and so they were not used, and the so-called human rights lawyer is not used to that kind of action. And so now they begin to harass them, and that's what led to their arrest. So yes, I'm very, very disappointed. It's not only me. Many Ghanaians are disappointed that this is a man that was touted as a Democrat, as a liberal Democrat, as somebody who is a human rights lawyer, and he doesn't care. He just doesn't care about anybody at all. He doesn't care. Once he has his power, and once they are doing things his way, and he has just bastardized all the institutions, you know. He's loaded all the institutions with MPP apparatchiks when you look at the Electoral Commission. And so they are doing exactly what the MPP wants, you know, except that we are also very, very alert, and we are catching them every step of the way. And we shall make sure that we catch them every step of the way and make sure that they do not rig this election like they did in the 2020 elections.
Okay, so I mean, now that we have we've gotten that out of the way, let's build up gradually to the topic for discussion for today. Well, before we get into the topic proper, maybe it would be helpful that we situate the conversation in its proper context. And
Yes.
for most people, they say that, I mean, we will talk around it before we get into the issue itself. They say that what is happening is actually, if you like, can be situated in a governance class. You know, like anybody who did government or basic political science, that this is a basic, occurrence or a basic class in governance or political science. In building up to it, it probably would be helpful if you could help us understand basically the two major systems of democracy, basically the parliamentary and then the presidential system of governance, so that we can build up to where we are right now and why we have a problem.
Okay, all right. So let me give it a try. The parliamentary system, you would see that normally there's a prime minister who is the head of government, and that prime minister is also a member of parliament that we have in the British Parliament, and we have the combined parliamentary and executive system in France, where they have a prime minister and they have a president, executive president as well. So the parliamentary system, all the secretaries or the ministers are also members of parliament, and so they always go to parliament and do government business from parliament as well. And so the prime minister is always answering questions and all of that. That is a basic difference. When you come to the executive type, the president is an executive president, the vice president, and they are not members of parliament. They will not be members of parliament. So, and they control the executive branch of government. And so basically this is what separation of powers is all about, is the division of functions, the state functions, among three arms of government. We have the executive, led by the president, and then his ministers. And then in our constitution, we have a hybrid also system where most of the ministers are supposed to be appointed from parliament, but the majority of them appointed from parliament. And then we have the legislature, which is parliament. The legislature is parliament and is led by the speaker of parliament. Just like we have the president, we have the speaker also for parliament. And then we have the judiciary, which is headed by the chief justice. So what happens basically is that the legislature is a law-making body. They make the laws, and the laws include policies that are, when government, the executive wants to implement policies, they bring them to parliament for endorsement, and all of that for debate and endorsement. It becomes law. Yeah, so if I say law, it goes beyond what is codified in the law books. So that's the house that makes the law, and then we have the executive that implements really or executes the laws and that are made, and then we have the judiciary that judiciary adjudicates. When people complain that either the law, if the law is not good, they can look at it and see the law is not consistent with the constitution, or if they have acted beyond their reach, and then or if anybody is aggrieved by in the implementation of the law, if it affects anybody's rights, then they can now go to the executive for them to interpret the law and make sure that they give whoever is complaining justice. So that is the government we have, and arms of government, their functions are distinguishable. They are, and they are supposed to be on their own doing, and none of them will have to meddle in the affairs of the other one unless a law is broken. If a law is broken, whoever complains that the law is broken by any of these branches will have, in fact, how do I say, hurt anybody, or the courts also do anything wrong to any, can take the courts to court, just like when Parliament does anything to anybody and the person thinks that they have violated the laws or the constitution, you can take Parliament to court, and just like the executive also, you can take the executive to court. But whilst they are doing their work, they are supposed to be independent. They are all autonomous and they do their work, and that is what we are. And under Nana Akufo-Addo, it is so bad.
Well, I mean, so basically, you have gone ahead to explain the concept of separation of powers. So that we have the clear delineation of the duties of the three arms of government, basically the executive, the legislature, and then the judiciary.
Yes.
But in the case of Ghana, our case is not as straightforward as it is it? Especially when it comes to the legislature and then the executive. Our case is not as clear-cut as this is. Is it? Is that?
Yes, it's supposed to be so. It is not so only because of people who are presiding over government, people who are supposed to make sure that these institutions work. They are the ones that are making us suffer. They are the ones that are not operating the system very well. Otherwise, it's supposed to be, every time that the Supreme Court has to interpret the Constitution, as nobody else can read the Constitution and understand and implement, and so they say all of these things to confuse people. So it is, and then these institutions have to be very strong institutions, meaning that you have to put people for them to make sure that they discharge their duties fairly, objectively, to the satisfaction of all citizens. You see governments come and then they want to appoint their favorites and people who will do things, who do their bidding into these institutions, and it was so worse under Nana Akufo-Addo everywhere. Even in the security services, they've been doing recruitment without publicizing. Where they have just, I don't know if you have heard about the document and all of that. Complete state capture. They want to capture everything from the executive, take over parliament. Ghanaians didn't vote, yet they were able to manage to even get equal, after killing 8 people, to get equal number of members of parliament as NDC. Anyway, and then we've been operating with that. And now that by operation of a simple constitutional provision, they are now joining the minority. They are now becoming the minority. They get round to court thinking that, as for court, when they go, they will get some protest, they will get some solace over there. So they went to court, and then they got a judgment to say that in the affairs of parliament to stop the speaker from making a decision. So yes, it's not working very well because of people who are in charge of affairs, and particularly under Nana Akufo-Addo and Bawumia. Should watch carefully before, and then make sure that Bawumia doesn't come anywhere near power, because once Bawumia is there, Nana Akufo-Addo is having more than 8 years and is ruling again, and his cabal would continue to torment the people of Ghana. So yes, so I agree with you. It's not working very well, but it's supposed to work well because it's the same practice we have in US and all of that. But we have the But the institutions over there and even the civil society organizations, they are very active in making sure that they make sure that the government does the right thing. And when you go to the courts, you have confidence that you have justice. I don't know if that is the case here.
Well, so just so that we get this out of the way, and then we can, probably just lay the foundation. Then we'll come back on the next part of the show. We can delve into the case proper.
All right.
As you might have intimated in just your recent response, this particular parliament, this 7th parliament of the 4th Republic, have not been devoid of controversy. Indeed, at least in inaugural sitting, it was settled with controversy, whereby we had all manner of things happening, MPs chewing ballot papers, military and policemen storming into the presence of parliament. That has built on to other things where we have had issues of parliament being dragged to the judiciary, impasse between the parliament and then the executive. You have the e-levy case, you have the the anti the proper human rights and family values bill, the anti-gay bill, and so on and so forth. So now, having built this background, what is your understanding of what happened in Parliament last week?
Yes.
Just so that we don't get into the details of it, but what's the background? What led us to where we are, and what do you think happened? In Parliament last week?
Oh, okay. Yeah, very well. To start, all viewers and listeners and people who listen later should understand that we are where we are because the 2020 election was stolen. It's as simple as that. In fact, that is the basic understanding. There's no better evidence than what is happening in Parliament to indicate it was stolen. Ghanaians had never voted the way we are seeing in Parliament before, where we have equal number of members of Parliament from both sides, both major parties. Not even only that, because 8 people had to die in order for MPP to have equal number at DC. And then when you look at the votes that were garnered by Nana Akufo-Addo, the vote far more than what is MPP candidates got. Very clear evidence, clear indication that the election was stolen, and that is what they are suffering for now. So I believe I want to do from the onset by giving majority to NDC is what is now reflecting now is what happened in next. But that was the best way I put it. Now last was very clear when some of their MPs have changed the nature of how they were elected into Parliament, and so they have to vacate their and they are challenging that. I know we are coming back into that to explain it thoroughly for viewers and listeners. But yes, basically that is the problem, because the law, the constitution says that when members of Parliament change, but when they change parties, you're elected by one party and you want to change the party, or you now want to become an independent member of Parliament, or you were elected an independent member and now you come to Parliament and now you want to change to another party, you have to vacate your seat. It's a very simple or very pretty simple and straightforward. We don't need any court to sit in between anybody. It's very clear. In fact, before you even make a request, the minority leader, who is now the majority leader, the then majority leader, who is now the minority leader, Mr. Penyomaki, had run to court like a baby, asking the court to help them to stop the speaker from working. That is really strange, very outrageous. You see, he's a lawyer, he's a lawmaker, and then you run to court and ask the court that they should stop Parliament from making a decision, taking a decision. To court and asking to stop Parliament from acting. So that is it. So basically, what God had wanted to do in the 2020 elections is just part of it that we are seeing now, that NDC has to be in the majority, and so we are going to see how it's going to play out from tomorrow.
Well, wonderful. We are really going to see how it's going to play out from tomorrow. But here on this show, we are going to see how the next stage of our discussion is going to play out. But before we go to the next stage, we would ask that we go on a very short break so that Lawyer Alifo can take a sip of water, and then we take some messages from our messages from our viewers and listeners, and then we would get back to the topic for discussion. So if you are joining us, this is MyView Show here live on Today Ghana News TV, where this evening we are discussing the impasse that is going on between Ghana's legislature and Ghana's judiciary, and what the consequences are, what the background is, and what is in store for the future. And we have been joined by Lawyer Eric Delano Alifo, who is the president of LINSOD, and LINSOD is Lawyers in Search of Democracy, who is joining us this evening to help us understand the topic for discussion. And then, but before we continue, we'd like to say a very big thank you to everybody who is listening or who is watching us. We say a very big thank you to our listeners on Sakina Information Center in Tatali in Northern Ghana. We also say a very big thank you to our listeners on High FM 3.7 in Achimima in this region. Also, a very big thank you to our listeners on the King's FM, the King's Radio in Accra. And a very big thank you to all our viewers and listeners on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, and on all the other platforms that you can be joining us. So let's take some comments from our viewers, and then we get back to the show. So, viewers, let's see what our viewers and listeners have been saying. Lady Andamal 2, good evening. Good evening to you too. It's been a while. And you are watching on Twitch from St. Petersburg in Russia. You want us to kindly ask Lawyer, how sure is he that the NDC MPs can stand on their ground to become the majority they deserve? All right, we would place that question to Lawyer when he joins us. Sikapa family. Good evening, Albert. Good evening to you, and good evening to you and your viewers as well. He said, welcome back to our screens. I'm grateful. You are watching from Jumapu, Niakofuridua. Keep on doing the good work. Thank you very much, Sekapa TV, for always tuning into our show. Kwesi Insia, you see, Lawyer Akufu is very... I'm not sure the name is Akufu. I think the name is Alifu. Okay, you say he's very articulate. Please, they should make sure that they police the ballot very well. You are watching from Anglo Town in Koforidua. Thank you very much, Kwesi Insia, for joining us. Naneta from, you see, greetings from Tatali in Northern Ghana, and Sakina Information Center listeners. Thank you very much, Nanata, for joining us this evening and every Monday evening. Robert Kimpi, you see, more fire, Lawyer Eric Delano. We are doing, you are doing well, and you are watching from Paris in France. Thank you very much, Robert Kimpi, for doing the watching. Yaframa TV. Good evening to you and your viewers. You say you are watching from Rara in Oti region. Please, Lawyer, any update on the new Santro Kofi Akpafu constituency? Okay, we would pose that question to Lawyer Alifo when he rejoins us in the second part of the show. Kweku, you say good evening. And you are watching from Suhum in the Eastern region. NDC really have the men. Thank you very much, Kweku Ivo, for joining us and for contributing to the show this evening. Frimpong Bafi. Frimpong, you say good evening. Your question is, can the majority MPs initiate impeachment proceedings of the president? And you are watching from Akusi near Sumenya. We'll place that question to Lawyer when he rejoins us in the show. NDC Diaspora Union, you say powerful submission, Lawyer Alifo, and you are watching on YouTube from Amsterdam, Holland. Thank you very much, NDC Diaspora Union, for joining us and for your contribution. Dina Cool, you say it's Lawyer Delano saying that saying that Lawyers in Search of Democracy has been in existence over 20 years, but now they have decided to speak out in public. Is their group affiliated to the NDC? I think he already answered those questions at the onset. I think he said that it started out as an NDC grouping, but now has members from other followership as well. Asempa Hene Boachi, you say, lawyer, what is your anticipation for tomorrow in Parliament? And you are watching and listening from Achim in mind. Well, that's the very first question that we all have to contend with tomorrow. I don't know whether lawyer has the answer to that, but we'll pose a question to him. Dina, cool, you are back, and you say, can lawyer Delano assure us that when the NDC is in government, they will be loud in speaking against the ills of the NDC government? Well, this is the question that most civil society organizations have to answer, and we'll pose that question to lawyer when he rejoins us. Mavis Boateng, you say you are watching with your family. You are watching with a family from Lisbon, Portugal. Thank you very much, Mavis Boateng, for always doing the watching and the listening every Monday evening. Fans TV, and you are watching from Aflao in the Volta region. Thank you very much, Fans TV, for joining us. Frimaoi, you see wonderful show, and you are watching from Mounthy, near Mounthy, near who, I think. Yeah, that's it. Frimaoi, thank you very much for doing the watching. And to all our viewers and listeners, we say a very big thank you to you. And we are happy that you have joined us today. And we say a very big thank you to you as well. So if our guest is ready, we invite him back to the studio. We invite Lawyer Alifo back to the studio, and then we would take it over from there. But in between that, I think we still have some comments coming. I think Young Democrats, you say Supreme Court is becoming a threat to our democracy. Well, that's what you are saying. And Dina, cool, you say, Albert, my T-shirt is ready. Great shoe. Thank you very much. I'm happy that your T-shirt is ready. I am happy. I hope that you enjoy your T-shirt and that it goes the right way. Yeah. So I think our guest will be joining us soon. And when he rejoins us on the show, what we want to do is to now enter into the topic for discussion proper. We try to build a foundation to the discussion for today. We try to talk about, what democracy is, what the separation of powers are, what is enjoined, what all the arms of government are enshrined with, what powers or lack of powers they are engendered or enshrined under the Constitution of Ghana. And we try to also look at, briefly touch on what happened in Parliament last week, starting on Tuesday, when these days it's difficult to tell who the majority or who the minority is, because we now have two sides of Parliament, each calling themselves majority, and we have no minority in Parliament in effect. Well, but the background is that the NDC side of Parliament, or the NDC caucus of Parliament, made a statement in Parliament and drew their attention to the Speaker, to the effect that some members of Parliament, to be precise, had made some changes to their status, and that based on those changes, and what are the changes that they made, I think one of them is NDC, who had filed to contest as an independent candidate, and two of them are MPP, who are also filing to contest as independent parliamentary candidates in the upcoming elections, and one who also happens to be the deputy speaker, the second deputy speaker of parliament, who came to parliament as an independent member, had also filed to contest his parliamentary elections as an MPP member. Well, the argument of the NDC side of parliament was that to the effect that these people had taken the steps that they had taken, and that the Electoral Commission had announced the notice of poll, which indicated that these people had done this, had taken these steps, and to the effect that their respective political parties have made provisions that if any, that, well, let's start from the onset. And the basis is that to be able to contest as a parliamentary candidate for any political party, well, one must have been a member of that political party to give that person the license to be able to contest under the sponsorship of that particular political party. Now, the flip side of that coin is that if any member of any of those political parties now decide to contest elections, under the umbrella of another party or as independent parties, independent candidates, what that effectively meant, according to the argument of the NDC, is that they have forfeited their membership to their political parties. And by forfeiting their membership, they no longer qualify, or they no longer have the status to sit in parliament as members of parliament representing different political entities that brought them to parliament. And to that effect, the NDC called on the Speaker of Parliament to declare those 4 parliamentary seats vacant. Well, that was on Tuesday. The Speaker of Parliament stated that considering the gravity of the submission that was made by the NDC, he was going to take few days, I think 2 days to be precise, to go through the issues and then to arrive at a final decision and make his decision known to Parliament on Thursday. Now, in Parliament on Thursday, the Speaker of Parliament, after his consideration, made his declaration or his pronouncement that having considered what the case of the NDC, and he also made reference to something that happened in the safe parliament of the Fourth Republic, which is the parliament before this one, where incidentally the deputy, the second deputy Speaker of Parliament, who this same rule applied to, and that the ruling of the then Speaker of Parliament, Speaker Professor Mike Oquay, was that to the extent that the then NPP member had then filed to contest as an independent candidate and not as a candidate of the NPP, and that his political party also wrote to Parliament informing them to that effect that he had to forfeit his membership, and indeed that did happen. So according to Speaker Bagwin, he had taken cognizance of that, but he was not restricting himself to that. He said he had looked at other parts of the Constitution and other parts of the standing orders of Parliament and arrived at the conclusion that these people, by virtue of their actions and inactions, had rendered themselves, had rendered their seats in Parliament vacant. And so he made that announcement to Parliament. Now, what happened subsequently was that the MPP caucus, led by Honorable Afenyo Makin, then took the case up and went to the Supreme Court, and among other things, sought to, say that the Speaker did not have the powers to do what he did, and that, among other things, that the people to whom judgment was given, well, that ruling they went against, were not given the opportunity to be heard in Parliament, and that went against their fundamental human rights, and made several other arguments before the Supreme Court. And then based on that, he said that he wanted the Supreme Court to interpret some portions of the Constitution of Ghana, which then would have meant that the Speaker did not have the ability to do what he did. But in doing so, when he filed this case, well, the lawyers say he filed ex parte. I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding of ex parte is that he filed it in the absence of the people who were supposed, the other side who was supposed to also make a case for themselves. And so even though the Speaker was the one in question in that hearing, or his ruling or decision was the one in question, he was not available in Parliament. Well, the Supreme Court deliberated over the issue and arrived at the decision that the case that was being made by the Honorable Afenya-Makin was weighty enough, and that they would stay the hand of the Speaker in his ruling, meaning that the ruling of the Speaker should be held as it is, should not be enforced, while they determine the case, the substantive case that was brought to the Supreme Court. Well, this has led to several interpretations of what has gone on. The NDC case, caucus in Parliament still hold on to their position that per the ruling or the announcement of the Speaker in Parliament on Thursday, that they are now the new majority in Parliament. Well, the other side is that the MPP also say that per what happened in the Supreme Court on Friday, that they still remain as the majority caucus in Parliament, and that whatever announcements or pronouncements of the Speaker on Thursday could not be enforced and were not enforceable, and so they are still majority members. They are still members of the majority caucus in Parliament. Well, some lawyers say that this, in effect, means that we have a constitutional crisis. We are at a point whereby it's almost as though the Parliament of Ghana, and that is the legislature and the judiciary, are at loggerheads. And people have said that tomorrow, when Parliament is set to reconvene, there is going to be a grand showing in Parliament and flexing of muscles, and that this could have implications on so many things. Well, could have implications on not only the performance of the duties of the legislators in the legislature, but could also have some far-reaching effects on the judiciary, if not necessarily in their functioning, but also in the perception, in the eyes of the general public. As some people say, that the judiciary in Ghana these days are becoming too predictable in their pronouncements. Other people have actually said that this standoff is likely to actually spin off and affect the workings of the executive. How is this likely to happen? Because there are some people who are proposing that if the judiciary can interfere in, and I'm using interfere here loosely, in the operations of the executive, should the executive continue to work at all, or they should also suspend whatever work that they are doing and also wait until this tussle between them and then the judiciary arrives at its final conclusion. If that were to happen, what would happen to all the government business that has to happen between now and then the end of the year, or till the next government takes over? Does that mean that Ghana is going to grind to a halt? these are all the questions that need answers to. And these are the questions that we were hoping to bring to the attention of our guests. But it appears that we are having some network issues, and we are struggling to get him back online. But we would hold on for a while, and if we are not able to get our guest back online, we may have to defer this conversation and have it on another forum, because as you can see, these are not light matters at all, and these have very, very far-reaching consequences to Ghana and what's going to happen in Ghana. Thank you very much, Lawyer, for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me back. There was a little technical challenge, but I'm back on now on my phone. Yes.
Okay. In your absence, what we try to do, I try to bring recap the events.
Okay.
But as I am not a lawyer, I stop short a little, or I am a little hesitant in dealing with what happened on Friday, because before we went on a break, we ended up what happened in Parliament on Thursday. Now, what is your understanding of what happened in Parliament on Friday?
Okay. Yes. So what happened actually is that first of all, we made the basis by letting viewers understand that Parliament is a co-equal arm of government, just like the judiciary. And then our empowers Parliament to make rules to regulate its for instance, in Article 110 of the Constitution, 1101, it empowers Parliament to make what we call the standing orders. Standing orders, that is, make that will be their order, the rules in how to regulate the proceedings of Parliament. And so Parliament has its standing orders. The Parliament is a master of its own rules, and whichever way they want to conduct their business, they do so, and nobody meddles with that until if they infringe the rights of anybody, then the person has the right to go to court. So has a rule, especially I think the Standing Order 93. If anybody if you look at the Constitution Article 97, 1, G and H, and with your permission, if I may read quickly, in Article 97 says that a member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament. Then G says that if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member, or if he was elected a member of Parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. Now, the standing orders empower the members of Parliament to notify or to inform the Speaker if there's anything the Speaker must know, and particularly in this matter, the minority leader at the time, Honorable Dr. Kessola Tofosin, informed the Speaker that two members of Parliament who were elected on the ticket of MPP had now filed to contest the 2024 elections as independent members of Parliament, and so they are no longer members of the NPP, or they are no longer NPP MPs in Parliament, because the provision is very clear. If you are elected as a member of Parliament for MPP and you want to now contest, or you are now an independent member, you should vacate your seat. And then one member also who was elected, who is the second deputy speaker, he was elected as an independent member of Parliament. He came to Parliament and said he was going to do business with MPP, and so he was doing business with them, and that is the reason why they had the majority side. He also now has filed to contest the next election as a member of NPP. And then one NDC member also has now filed to contest as an independent member. So if you read the Article 97, 1, G and H, it says clearly that once you change the nature of how you were elected to parliament, you have to vacate your seat. That is all it says. It doesn't say that any particular person will have to write to the speaker or nothing. Now, once it's a matter. In fact, it's a statement of if they can find out, if they can ascertain that indeed the members of parliament have changed the way they came to parliament, have changed the nature of how they were elected to parliament. That is it. That ends it. So the minority leader at the time informed the speaker about it. In fact, before he would do that, the former minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, had mentioned it at a political event somewhere in the north. And when I think when MPP side heard it, then they knew that there was a fight on their hands coming up. So quickly they ran to court. And they ran to court to try to injunct the speaker from even acting. You see, and that is weird, very weird. I still cannot understand, because the petition was not, or the request had not yet been made to the speaker. So, and the speaker has not ruled, and yet you don't even know how the speaker was going to rule, whether the speaker was even going to rule in favor of the former minority or not. We didn't know. And then you ran to court to say the court should stop the speaker from acting, and then the court should interpret the constitution. And so they filed that writ against the speaker, and then they also filed an application to injunct the speaker. They were not able to serve that on the speaker. And the reason they were not able to serve was that when you look at Article 117 of the Constitution, the 117 says that members of parliament and the clerks of parliament and all those people who are working in parliament, they cannot be served with any court processes to be arrested or served with civil procedure on their way to parliament, or when they are in parliament working, or on their way from parliament. They cannot be served. So you see that it's very difficult to serve members of parliament with court processes, because even if the person is sitting somewhere and taking a beer at a spot, when you bring a process, he can tell you that I'm on my way to parliament. You know, the provision says that you cannot serve them when they are on their way to parliament. So as a result of the practical difficulties, the speaker, the leadership of parliament, came to an agreement with the leadership of the judiciary, that the Chief Justice, and they agreed that parliament could only be served with processes on Mondays. So that was it. So if on Tuesday or so they were trying to serve the process, clearly if they wanted to change the agreement between the Chief Justice and parliament, that service should be done on parliament on Mondays, we expect that perhaps it's not a rule anyway, but it's a gentleman agreement. They still will have to make some changes. So because of that, there were difficulties, and they were frustrated in serving the process. In fact, even if they had succeeded in serving the process, we think that it was wrong, because that process, especially the application for injunction, seeks to stop the speaker from acting, from doing his work. And the Supreme Court itself has ruled before that you cannot stop a public officer from doing the work, official duty. That's an official duty of the speaker, is to act on a petition or a request that was made by a member of parliament and a minority leader. The speaker took 2 days. There were debates, you know, after the request was made. Honorable Alifo saying there was some debate in parliament. After the debate, the speaker took 2 days, and he came back and he ruled. And again, there was a precedent in 2020. That was the very first time this provision was applied, in 2020, when the same speaker, who is also in the middle of this matter right now, when at the time he was a member of MPP, member of parliament for MPP, and he had filed to contest as an independent candidate. Then MPP wrote to the speaker and said that, well, the man had left their party, and so they should let him vacate his seat. And the speaker, Michael Kwe, ruled that yes, he should, once he had crossed carpet, he has to leave parliament. And I think that decision was right. And then, so that's a precedent. So although Speaker Bagbin did indicate that he was not bound by that precedent, and then he went ahead to do his own analysis, and he came to the same conclusion that once these 4 MPs had crossed carpet, they have to vacate their seat. And I think that is a very good decision also, because the provision doesn't say that the political parties must write to the speaker or must prompt the speaker, or the political parties must take any action first. For instance, one argument we are hearing is that in the 2020 case, the MPP had actually written to the speaker to say that because Honorable Esiama had left, and by the operation of the MPP's constitution, he had ceased to be a member of NPP. So they are saying that in this particular case, nobody had written to the speaker about it. But the provision, the Article 97(1) G and H, it doesn't say anything about anybody informing the speaker. It's just a fact. If they are able to find out that, well, indeed, this is a matter of fact, we can find out, we can ascertain. And there was a notice of pull. That was how the speaker was able to ascertain that indeed it was true. The notice of pull is official document that indeed they had crossed carpet. So and then there's also the argument that this rule or this provision will have to apply in the next parliament. That one doesn't make sense, because the parliament that you have not been elected into yet, how can you vacate sit in that parliament? So when you cross carpet, and I was asking my very good friend, Professor Kwakwaza, I was asking him the last time that, assuming that Honorable Peter Amewu, who is the only MPP MP from Volta region, if he now files to contest, his MP for Volta is an MPP MP right now. If he files to contest the next election as NDC MP, then, and he remains in Parliament as MPP member of Parliament, if MPP caucus is meeting, he will have to meet. How about if NDC parliamentary candidates are meeting? Would he also go attend that meeting as well? You see, so you will see the challenge. So clearly, the provision is very clear. So the speaker came back and ruled that they had to vacate their seats. And then now they ran back to court. Now the decision was made. They ran back to court again. And then when they went to court, they asked for the decision that was made by the court. It's flawed with the many technical errors that lawyers are talking about, discussing all of those, which I wouldn't want to bore you so much. But when they went, first of all, if you are filing, if it's injunction, application for injunction, then there has to be a writ. There has to be a writ of someone. You have to, based on certain facts, and based on that, that is when, on the back of that, you file an application for injunction to preserve the status quo until the issues are determined. That is one. Now, in this particular case, the writ that was filed by the speaker was made. And so in that writ, there wouldn't be anything to say that this decision was made and all of that. And so they will have to file a new writ. In the first place, they didn't file a new writ. And they also didn't file an application for injunction. They filed what they are calling stay of execution. And you can only stay execution of judicial orders, judicial decisions. This may be too difficult for some of the listeners, but the lawyers understand what I'm saying. So there has to be a judicial order, a court order. That is why you can stay the execution of that order. But a speaker's decision is not a court order. A speaker's ruling is not a court order for you to go and stay execution in court. And again, when the speaker made the ruling, they didn't file any new suit upon which back they will file an injunction. That was also the plenty errors. And then also another error is that
hello, Lawyer Alifo, do we have you? Yeah, it appears we are still having some technical challenges, with Lawyer Alifo. Before we lost him, he was trying to take us through, what happened in Parliament and what happened in the Supreme Court on Friday. And just before we lost him, he was telling us that, in his opinion, the decisions that sprang out of the proceedings in the Supreme Court on Friday has come up for scrutiny by various courts, especially within the legal fraternity. and that you know, and he was trying to tell us about the differences and the difficulties that people have had with the what happened in the Supreme Court. So let's take these other messages from our viewers. Nyame, yeah, boy. Oh, good evening, sir. You say good evening from Nkwanta in OT. Well education, so yeah, we are very well educated this evening. Thank you very much. Patience Daku, good evening to you. You say good evening. Great show. You are watching from Hamburg in Germany. Richard Bayemba Yoda. I hope I got your name right. You said a great submission by Lawyer Alifo. God richly bless you for your excellent public education on legal matters. Thank you very much, Richard, for joining us. Ghana Himfie, you see, Ghana is very hard for some of us. God bless you, lawyer, and you're watching from Bususu in Frantiaqua District, Frantiaqua South District. Thank you very much for joining us. And okay, lawyer has joined us, Lawyer Alifo. All right, so so let's try and round up quickly. And so now following from what happened on Friday with all the legal things that have happened on Friday, and following from what the lawyers have been talking about, what the ordinary man can glean from it is that basically now we have both sides of parliament claiming to be majority, and we have no minority. My simple question to you is, Nahu Kosa, as they say in Ghana.
Well, the is a consequence of the elections that they stole. That is it. Their members, 3 of their members haven't changed their parliament. Is that's the meaning of the result of the seats is that the NDC now becomes majority in parliament, and NDC MPP becomes the minority. In fact, that is the problem. If it were not so, I am sure they will not be fighting this whole issue, because the provision is very clear. I have to state this point. You see, they are telling us that, and Mr. Penyomakin and all his MP voters are all saying that it is only the Supreme Court that has to interpret the Constitution. It is not exactly so. You see, every day the duty bearers, and especially the executive, they are always interpreting the Constitution. They are always implementing the Constitution. For instance, after new elections, the president will make appointments. He will appoint more ministers, majority of ministers from parliament. He doesn't go to Supreme Court for Supreme Court to explain or to interpret that provision that majority of ministers should come to parliament before the president appoints more of the ministers from parliament. You see, so the Constitution is there. If the provisions are straightforward, you just have to implement them. If you have to do anything, and parliament is constantly implementing the provisions of the Constitution. That doesn't mean that they may get it right every time. So if they don't get it right, then anybody who is aggrieved can go to court and ask the court to interpret. So this article 97, 1, G and H, it was not even interpreted, it was not even implemented. The speaker had not even made any pronouncement on it before they went to court. They were already afraid. And then they went to court to ask the court to stop the speaker from even acting. So tomorrow, if we have a new government, can I, before he makes appointment minister, can I run to court and say he should not appoint because I don't know how he's going to appoint the minister, whether he may not appoint majority from parliament. So the Supreme Court should explain. No. So they make us think that the Supreme Court would interpret the Constitution if there's a real issue, if there's a grievance, if there's a problem people are fighting over, or if somebody says his right was infringed, and then the person goes to court, and then they will interpret that, and then they make orders that we call consequential orders. That is how it works. So it is not that every time you just run to court and go and tell the Supreme Court and interpret this because the speaker is going to explain something tomorrow about this provision. So explain it, so interpret it first so that we can take it to him to go and no. So you will see clearly that the minority side, the now MPP minority side, they don't have any case. It is only because they have so much confidence that whenever they run to the courts will do for them what they want. That is the only thing. And so they think that they cannot fight this in parliament. And the courts have to also be very careful because you see the courts, if you look at the reasons the court gave in their decision, they are saying that government, because MPP, the MP said so, Abenomakin said so in his application, that government business may be affected. How do you know government business may be affected? And it's not for the judiciary to bother about what parliament is going to do. If parliament wants to do things to affect government business, so be it. Look, in American Congress, there are times that they shut the government, federal government, down completely because they will not even approve budgets. I haven't heard it before that anybody, and more so, a member of Congress will run to court to stop the majority side or minority side from doing anything in Congress. No, you dare not do that. So for parliamentarians to run to court and say that, as for the court, every time you must be interrupting. And again, we should know that there's Article 122 of the Constitution, which the 122, with your permission, it says general contempt. It says an act or omission which obstructs or impedes Parliament in the performance of its functions, or which obstructs or impedes a member or officer of Parliament in the discharge of his duties, or affronts the dignity of Parliament, or which tends either directly or indirectly to produce that result, is contempt of Parliament. So I am waiting for Parliament to hold the judiciary in contempt, to hold the Supreme Court in contempt, because the Supreme Court cannot try to interrupt what Parliament is doing. If and then another reason they gave is that they didn't give the affected members of Parliament a hearing. They didn't allow them to state their side. Natural justice was denied. But the point is that they were members of Parliament until that pronouncement was made that they had vacated their seats. So they were supposed to be in Parliament. So if they had anything to say, they're supposed to be in Parliament to raise the issues. But they didn't even go to Parliament because they knew already that once they had crossed carpet, they were supposed to vacate their seats. There was another reason that they gave. They said they denied. They said it was their constituents representation in Parliament. That's very, very interesting. The constituent, no constituent. If you deny, that would appear like a human rights issue that they are denying constituents representation. So, but no constituent has complained. It is not constituents that have gone to court. If they are denying constituents, it is not Mr. Penyomagi who will file a suit on their behalf. It is constituents who will have to raise that. And Parliament, again, in Article 02 of the Constitution, it made provision that there may be vacancy in Parliament at certain times, but it doesn't stop Parliament from moving. Some 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 vacancies may exist because people have crossed carpet. Would not mean that Parliament will not act. Parliament will still go ahead, and nobody can say that government business, if government business will be affected, it will be a matter for Parliament to deal with, not the judiciary. Not just judiciary, as long as it is a decision that they take in Parliament. So, and the human right, in any case, human rights issues are not resolved in Parliament, in the Supreme Court. There's a human rights court. It is a high court that addresses those things. So if anybody says that they are denying us representation, they have to go to human rights court and file a suit at the human rights court. And again, we also know that there are 4 traditional areas right now in the Oti region: the South, the Central Kofi, the Akpafu, Lolobi, and Likpe people. They don't have representation in Parliament. Nobody cares. The Supreme Court doesn't care about that. The EC was the one that denied them representation because they wanted Peter Mewu to be elected as a member of Parliament for Orwe. And so they waited till the eve of election, and then they wrote to them that they will not vote in the parliamentary election. And that was how Peter Mewu became a member of Parliament and all of that. And then the same Supreme Court injuncted Honorable Jache Kwesi from attending Parliament. They denied the people of Assin North representation in Parliament. They didn't see anything wrong with that. But once MPP has run to the court, Afenyomakin has run to the court, now they are saying that the consequence will be denied, and so the Speaker should reverse the decision he made. And so we are waiting to see if the Speaker will do that. We hope he will not, because the Supreme Court decision is wrong, and then the Speaker has to tell them, because as soon as the Speaker allows that, I believe that anything that the Parliament is going to do, the judiciary may come in any time, as long as they know that it's not going to benefit the government. They will come in to stop Parliament, and Parliament may not be able to operate any longer. So that is it. That is what the situation is currently.
So, Lawyer Alifo, final question to you. Yes. Based on everything we have discussed today, I mean, if you have knowledge about some strategies, maybe better not to share. But what do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Hello, Lawyer Alifo. Do we have you? Hello? Okay. So I think we have lost Lawyer Alifo again due to technical challenges. But I mean, I think we have had a very productive discussion this evening. He has told us what his understanding of the situation is and what he thinks that should happen moving forward. And we are grateful for his time. We're hoping to have him to give us his final input. But if we cannot get him, we are still grateful. Just as we are grateful to you, our viewers and our listeners on Sakina Information Center in Tetali in Northern Ghana, also to our listeners on High FM Net 3.7 in Achimima in the City region. Also thankful to our listeners on the King's Radio in Accra, and also to all our viewers and listeners on all our social media platforms. For those of you who are joining us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on all your favorite social media platforms, we are grateful to you, just as we are very, very grateful to Lawyer Eric Delano Alifo. Lawyer Alifo, as we said, is a lawyer in practice, and is also the president of Lawyers in Search of Democracy, LINSOT. Thank you very much, everybody, for being with us and for joining us this evening. And until we come your way again next week with another intriguing topic for discussion, we say stay blessed, stay safe. God bless you, and God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you, and good evening.
The truth is an irony, just like animal farm. Justice means inequity. So